All right, so we'll take some, hello Jody, thank you for joining us. So we'll take some questions that have kindly been posted. And whoever wants it, raise your hand and fire away. So we have a question from Patsy Perry. It says, how much potential is there for fashion rental in everyday categories? So not designer, occasion wear or pregnancy. And how can it compete with the price and convenience of fast fashion like H&M and Boohoo? It's a good question, right? Because we're told in e-commerce that consumers demand more convenience, more variety, faster delivery, and there's extra steps, right, in rental that's going to slow all of that down and not provide that same or meet those expectations. So who's got some thoughts on that?
Well, okay, I connected. So it's depending on how you calculate it. I think the rental economy market, you have to add both the subscription market, but I think the main market value is actually resale. Because if you look at subscription or rental, that is actually resale, just repackaged. So moving from resale, because it's still, resale is kind of similar of the existing business model. You produce something and then you resell it in best cases. But that in itself will not change the business model, I think. But combining resale market and subscription market will be the total value. So from the global data report, that will be roughly 35 billion US dollars just in America at the moment. So that's the value, what we currently know.
Anyone else got any thoughts on that? Okay, Alex.
Yeah, there, unmute me. Well, I think also when we look at what do I want to rent and the everyday categories, the basic T-shirt or whatever, something really interesting now happening with new materials that also is coming along. So that we will have, it's a limited amount of cotton, and cotton we all know is highly water producive and so on. So I think there's interesting when it comes total new fabric that I can wear for a while and then just discard it again. So maybe that will be my new standard T-shirt. I know when I posted about this design or the seminar, I got a comment that there is the Puma has a T-shirt that is now designed to fade. It's biodegradable and it's manufactured on demand. So I think we'll find two different, in my opinion, I think we'll have two different companies producing the biodegradable stuff that is organically produced or produced in such a way that it doesn't harm the nature. And then we will have the stuff that maybe harms the nature a little bit, but because we're recycling it so many times, we gain on it.
Yeah, Frederick.
Yeah, another thing I think is interesting when you're talking about how can you compete with fast fashion like H&M. I was actually having this conversation with the business developer, one of the business developers at H&M. One of the main competitors they see as Alibaba, where you sometimes sell a T-shirt for $2. The interesting part, if you look at it from a rental perspective, is that, what you're competing with right now is price. If I have that in a subscription model, that T-shirt, and the only thing you have to do, just like a library book, you just scan it every week, let's say, and you can keep continuing having that T-shirt. That data will be more worth than $2. Meaning you can actually give that T-shirt away for free. And the reason why I talked about with H&M was that I wanted to actually see, is that a model that would work for real? And they confirmed it, which means that you can completely disrupt the system. If you go into a market and don't compete with price, at the same time have a rental model where you basically take away price as a factor. And of course, if you're only interested in paying $2 for a T-shirt, maybe you don't care if someone gives away your data, because that's of course the drawback of this whole system. But I just wanted that the business model itself is also a driver for disruption.
Yeah. So There's an interesting question here. So, question for Alex specifically. Will the renting economy cause an increase in logistics requirements and result in an increase in carbon footprint?
Good question.
Yeah.
Well, I think when we look at logistics, that's a whole webinar in itself. And I would urge anyone who's interested in logistics today to really look on the web, lectures that are on logistics. We're going to see a transformation that I think we haven't seen since the dawn of the 40-foot cargo container. First of all, I think when we talk about sustainable clothing, we can again move factories closer maybe to the consumers, because we're going to make more durable stuff. We're not going to use, we want to have more durable clothes that can go for longer cycles and runs. And I think in that perspective, we're going to shorten the time it takes for the goods to come to our final destination. And secondly, I think when we're looking at last mile transportation and the logistics around that, one of my favorite examples here in Stockholm is Move by Bike. They're doing last mile transportation with electricity bikes instead. So I think it also, again, going around to the example that Caroline was talking about, maybe I'll go to my dry cleaner that's around the corner, and I'll leave the stuff there, and they will have an e-pod coming, which is driven electrically, picking the stuff up, sourcing it, and then you need, of course, garments that are RFID that tracks where all the goods are and so forth. I don't think it's, and I saw another question around that, I don't think we're just like shifting from the e-commerce to the rental commerce that is going to be like, oh, we have 10% decrease in e-commerce, and now we're going to have that offset into rental. I think rental or access economy, first, you need not as much stuff lying around. I mean, I'm a minimalist, so my wardrobe is already really little. And when people discover that I can get, let's say I need to go somewhere tonight and I need something good to wear. And I love Fredrik's example about, I'm going to show my Netflix account and go for that dress. And then a couple of hours later, it appears in front of my doorstep by a self-driving car in 2025 beyond. And I lock it up by taking it out. And of course, it's electrical powered car. And by doing that, all of a sudden, everything shrinks. I mean, it's just going to be needing 3 shirts instead of 10. When we do electrical transportation with self-driving cars, we're going to have 3 cars instead of 10. So I don't think we're going to have an increase in the logistics.
Yeah, and I need to add to that as well, because I think it's quite interesting. I saw a very recent report where they looked at the total footprint during the life length of a garment. And I think it was 67% is production, of course. But 10%, and that's 10%, is you taking your own car, driving to the shopping mall. That's 10% of the total footprint. So if we're talking about logistics, people often forget that taking your own car and driving to a shopping mall actually is 10% of the footprint of the t-shirt.
Are you talking about when you're buying the t-shirt, Fredrik?
When you're buying the t-shirt, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and that actually is more than if you use the postal service, because you're actually shipping out a lot of stuff with the same car. This is something that's interesting with this discussion, because we often forget how we actually access that piece of garment the first time.
Yeah, good question, good point. And I also think when we look at this and when we get RFID tags in the clothes itself, and as you said, Freddie, that leather jacket was in that movie or whatever, you will get an intelligent system also being able to predict, like, oh, next week the demand for sweaters in a certain area of Stockholm, Kungsholmen, will rise by 10%. So let's shift stuff there. Again, maybe a Euro pallet comes there and then it gets distributed out through the finer mechanisms.
Yeah. Maybe the big thing that none of us is really mentioning, but that is the underlying thing, is that with a rental system, the company will earn more money the less garment they produce, and the longer the life length. So you got a built-in kind of environmental friendly system, but driven by economical incentives, which is unfortunately or fortunately, depending on where you stand, a good thing. But it's still, I mean, I think that's the driver, that you get the volume production goes down.
Yeah. So I actually have a question to you then, Fredrik. So do you think that the rental of fashion will replace ownership of fashion?
Yeah, I'm completely with Alexander here, that access is, I mean, if you look at the younger generation, it's owning stuff is just stupid. I mean, a square meter of an apartment in Stockholm, what is it, 70,000, give or take. To have a wardrobe, I think that, I mean, our kids in the future, they will say like, did I have to buy, I mean, I want to go to a party. I couldn't just get a dress. Did I have to buy it first and store it at home? Was it like CD records? That to be able to listen to a song, I needed to have a disc and store it in my home, and that's also the only way to listen to music. So that piece of song, I think they would be exactly the same, to be honest.
I'm not so sure. In a way, I mean, to me, fashion is having a relationship. With a lot of the clothes that I have a relationship. My Gore-Tex jacket keeps me safe in the mountains. My favorite T-shirt, I've washed it probably 300 times. I've had it forever. I have built up a relationship with them, and I can't do that with a rented piece.
Can't you? I mean, first of all, I just have to at least try to attack a little bit. I think, first of all, yes, you hear that a lot. That's one of the things that I've heard over and over. And that's something that people are talking about in the music industry as well. I mean, a record, I mean, to have that record, I mean, to own it, and it just disappeared immediately. So, I mean, some nerds still owns records. Some nerds would still own fashion. Of course, there will be a market for it. And so, yeah, definitely, it will be there. But yeah.
Do you think the younger generations now, they attach themselves to products in a different way, and that might apply to fashion? So yeah, that Gore-Tex jacket, to you, you having a relationship with it because it keeps you warm and safe on the mountain. To the younger generation, it might be because they look really cool on their Snapchat, or because of the story, the Insta story that they shared wearing that Gore-Tex jacket. Presented them as a cool outdoorsy person, and that was their relationship with it. Actually, the content that they produced, and maybe that fits in with what you were saying, Fredrik. That fashion brands need to become content producers.
Yeah, but I also think that a shared history. I mean, like Alexander mentioned as well. I mean, if you have a history in the garment, I mean, this jacket was at that party, or that was at even the Oscars, or worn by that celebrity. This specific jacket, not a jacket like this, but this jacket. It becomes the same thing, but kind of a shared kind of same, but not the same.